Hello, my name's Peter Walker and I'm the Regional CTO for Blue Prism across EMEA. And I want to talk about automation strategy for national government. So often we think about automation as just a means to cut cost or just improve service around the edges, but I see it as a true transformational lever that leads to vastly different outcomes. I want to begin with a story about Alexander Hamilton, who you'll find on a $10 bill in the US if you go and spend some money. Now, he was a political statesman who had a fierce rival, and they led to a duel in combat. They fought to the death. Now, as well as being a statesman, Alexander Hamilton also founded the Bank of New York. And the joke amongst people who work for the bank is that he left one morning and said, "Don't make any decisions till I come back." Now, you can guess the rest. He died in the duel, and of course, nothing's changed since. Now, we say that in jest, but actually the Bank of New York is a very innovative organization. But we all feel like that, don't we? That it's so hard to change our organizations. And this is for good reason. We have people, we have processes, we have technology, and so often they're very closely bound together. We can't change one without changing the other, and that makes it really tough. And set against this is a further conflict that says there's so much we want to do on our strategic agenda. New services, new ways of working, new platforms that will be more flexible, opening ourselves up to new opportunities with AI, analytics, and emerging technology. And yet on the short-term agenda, there's just such a big to-do list that it feels we never get round to the long term. Well, I want to propose a methodology and a technology which actually allows you to align those. For every short-term project you undertake, there will be assets that fall out of that as a byproduct, which then become building blocks towards your future. And I'll explain further about that. But let's also talk about a really important concept, which is outside-in thinking. Perhaps when you were a child doing puzzles, you noticed it's very often easier to work from the end point backwards, and yet so often we do the opposite. We start with our systems of record, we run some workshops, we look at some ideas for automation, we do process improvement, we weave in automation in. It's all really great and it leads to results, but really all we're doing most of the time is making marginal improvements around the edges. From the user's point of view, nothing has changed, and that's because we've worked inside the institution and we've not thought about the end result from the outside. Well, what if we accept those systems of record are there, and then we begin to work outside in? We think from the beginning about the systems of engagement and the user experience. We daydream about voice-activated services, maybe a proactive interaction from state government with the citizen to deliver value to them in some way. I don't know what the answers are, but the point is we're going to daydream about this. And then what we have to do is just worry about the gap between the aspiration and the reality of our systems. And there's a way of bringing those together. But there was a nebulous word there, experience. What's an experience? Well, I'll tell you what it's not. Very often we confuse it for a touch point. You know, filling out my tax return online is a touch point, but it's not an experience. It isn't part of a contextual journey that means something to me as a person. Whereas doing some financial planning with an expert who helps me plan my children's education, think about my retirement, there might be several touch points with national government as part of that experience, such as reviewing my tax return and such as reviewing a pensions dashboard. In a local authority context, the experience might be a relationship through a mobile app that really delivers meaning to me based on where I live, which school my children attend, how I can resolve problems with refuse collection or anything else might be going on. And the local authority can advertise to me to explain all the social good that it's doing in my area. But the reality is, we've all got this spaghetti infrastructure. It's nobody's fault. Much of this is inevitable. It takes place because of mergers and other short-term imperatives. So we return to this issue of how do we create greater flexibility and how do we align our short and long-term roadmaps? Well, that's a conversation for another day, but I'm going to leave you with some examples of what Blue Prism has been doing with the NHS, for example. So we've been adding agility. COVID is a great example where we've been able to free up resources to be diverted elsewhere. We've helped to set up new services such as digital GP consultations. We've created new data flows to be able to track infection rates across the prison population, for example. We've brought innovation to bear by providing really low-cost ways and rapid ways to pilot emerging and experimental technology, such as AI diagnosis engines. And we've increased capacity. And my favourite example is one in an NHS trust where patients can cancel their appointment directly on a mobile device, and a Blue Prism digital worker frees up the slot and reallocates it to another patient, meaning that there's no wasted capacity. So if those sound exciting to you and you see value for national government and beyond, we would love to talk to you. Thank you very much.